the MIRC channel, dude. MIRC. I remember that. The ICQ. Oh, God. Why don't we just tell everybody how old we are? MIRC. I remember that back in the day, dude. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember I got AOL Instant Messenger, dudes, right? And then there was a guy, like, this was like in the 90s, right? And then there was a guy down the street that was a huge software guy. I think works for, like, I don't know, we work Google or something now, right? And he's like, no, you have to use MIRC. And I'm like, all right. Dude. All right. Oh, Nate's in there. So how do we listen in? Yeah, Forge, I have the link open. You don't need to whisper it to me. I got it. So I click the channel, right? And I'm in the audience, I think. There's a lot of people in here. Like, do we...
So I'm gonna go
okay.
Well,
okay, there we
it's
go.
already falling apart.
All right, there we go. I got it.
What kind of a noob am I? Okay. Hey, Michael, what do you got for me?
Here we go.
I gotta contain my laughter here. All right, let's jump right in here. So
That's my boy
first
right
question we have from Hofflet from the Discord. What is the best mission you saw an image of on KSP2 screenshots?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
We're starting with hard ones. Okay. Well, personally, I really like all the land speed record attempts. They're getting pretty absurd. I don't know what the highest number I've seen so far yet, but it's a clearly non-physical, very, very high number. I like that people are making hay while we don't have reentry heat, because that's going to definitely be a constraint on those speeds. So that's fun to watch. I also like people landing in weird spots. I've seen good landings in the tracking station dish. I've seen people parking jet fighters on the parking garage. We are going to be improving collision on the garage in an upcoming update, and now I assume people will start filling up the garages with stuff. So yeah, looking forward to all that.
Guilty.
Awesome. Next question we have from Inwin on the Discord. How has the rough launch of early access affected the overall mood and productivity of team members and developers? How does your team stay motivated through all of the hateful comments that get thrown towards the development and marketing teams?
It's pretty hard to answer these kinds of questions for everybody on the team, so I can give you a personal perspective. I mean, the mood's good, right? We're having fun playing the game right now. It hasn't always been fun. Like as these bugs get squashed, we have more fun playing the game as well. And it's, of course, really nice to see people in the community having more fun as the game improves. Staying motivated. I mean, it also feels really good to fix a bug. You know, it's kind of like scratching an itch that you haven't been able to scratch for a really long time.
Facts.
So really, the work itself is a pretty good motivation. I mean, most of us on the team have been working in games for years. And so, mean comments are something that kind of comes with the territory. But I've noticed with this community, it's rarely coming from a place of hate. It's usually somebody who's frustrated because they want to do something that they can't do. So, even when they're unhappy, people are recognizing that the experience is going to keep improving. So, yeah, I'd say overall, mood's pretty good.
I'd agree. I'm having a good time, too. Our next question is from Hatrick, also on the Discord. We have, as a longtime KSP1 player, I was worried about the future of KSP2 after the rough release. However, I must say, I and many others have renewed faith in you and your team after the success of this first patch. Awesome job, guys. Thank you. That being said, what can you say to calm the concerns of the diehard fans that are still worried that we may never see certain roadmap goals fulfilled due to funding?
Well, first of all, we didn't put things on the roadmap that we didn't feel confident we'd get to. I mean, everybody here, really from the bottom to the top, Intercept, Private Division, Take-Two, is in this for the long haul. I mean, we all saw KSP1 evolve over a decade. It's basically an institution at this point. And I think basically the encouragement we're getting from all directions, whether it's the publisher or the fans or other people on our own team, build a stable foundation. One of the nice things about being first party at Take-Two is we don't have to be worried about making rent next month. Like if you've ever worked at an indie game studio, you really are in many ways controlled by the need to keep the lights on, and honestly, Take-Two can afford to take the long view, which is nice. It really helps us be able to make good, balanced decisions with the long term in mind.
Cool. Our next question here is from K-Create, also on the Discord. Can you give any more detail about how the automated trade routes are going to work? We see ships automatically landing on or taking off from the launch pad, or would be more of an in the background kind of thing?
This is
How will
cool.
the game handle changing Delta V requirements due to different planetary alignments?
This is cool. Listen.
Big question. Maybe it's helpful to give a little context about iterative development. When we create a spec, it usually kind of talks about a series of steps that the feature will go through. And so, we start with basic functionality and then additional improvements are kind of layered in. And each of those phases is balanced against other production priorities, right? So if we attempt to make the perfect platonic version of a feature, or like it's got all the bells and whistles, and we work on that to the expense of a bunch of other features that also need to exist, we end up with a very unbalanced game. So the idea is to move everything forward stepwise in parallel so that you have an overall good experience and that we also are able to improve things over time. So as I talk about anything over the course of this AMA, I can talk about things that I want. They may be described in the specs as a long-term or aspirational goal, as a sort of most perfect version of the feature. But this is a good example of something where, if we're talking about delivery routes, we have clear steps that feature is going to go through. So in its first implementation, it'll be a simple timer. It's just crediting and debiting resources to vehicles and colonies based on the duration of the original delivery mission. So you run it one time, and then it'll repeat at the periodicity that's sort of established by that first mission. And then the next version of that timer, it may take launch windows and phase angles into account so that the periodicity of those timers is affected by the alignment of the planets with which they're associated. And then, obviously, someday we would love to see vehicles coming and going. I cannot promise that, but that is a thing that I want. It is a long-term aspiration. It is described in the spec. But, again, we're looking at this as something that hopefully we've got a 10-year runway, just like KSP1 had. So we want to shoot for the stars if we can.
Awesome. The next question here we have is from Silo on the Discord. Can we get anything in writing to the planned structure function of multiplayer within the game? How do you plan to work around certain speed bumps like time warp or two-player craft docking? I.e., where is the processing for this done?
It's not finished yet, but it's implemented at a rudimentary level.
Generally, we're trying to save the details around multiplayer for a future communication. I mean, especially given that it's the sort of last tentpole feature as part of the core development. We try not to go into too much detail, but let me try to give you something. So we do expect there to be separate timelines. And you will not be able to physically interact with other players unless you're on the same timeline as another player. So there would be a reconciliation of time warp before you're interacting physically, which means docking or landing on somebody's colony or something like that.
Landing in somebody's colony.
I probably am not equipped to get into the details of how we're simulating which client has physics authority when you're within the physics bubble.
Yeah.
There's probably some iteration still going on around how most efficiently to do that. So yeah, I will leave that for a future communication.
Awesome. Next question is from Paradox 507, also from the Discord. How much time and research goes into deciding what kind of rocket/space plane parts get into KSP2/KSP?
A lot, especially in the early days before we had Chris Adderley, aka Nertea, who is a celebrated part modder. for KSP1, who is now our lead part designer. I worked with subject matter experts. Dr. Yuri Shimlock at the University of Washington helped us with the designs for a lot of the interstellar engines, inertial confinement fusion, Z-pinch fusion, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that.
We hold ourselves to this standard of rooting everything in the game in real science and in engineering. Even if it is not a perfectly realistic representation, it is meant to be a thing that if you look it up on Wikipedia, you discover that it is a thing. That if you see that there's a Z-pinch fusion engine, and you think, well, that sounds silly, that can't be real, then you can go on a Wikipedia Odyssey and discover that it is real. We also spend a lot of time on the Atomic Rockets website. It's run by a guy named Winchell Chung. It is the coolest website on the internet. If you are a rocket nerd and you want to know every engine that's ever been proposed, they're all there. And sometimes we take inspiration from that.
Awesome. Our next one here is user Nitro, also from the Discord. In regards to the decision to leave wobbly rockets within the game,
Yeah, Alex, that's where I know it. You linked
more
it the other
detrimental
day.
to rocket design and progression, or is this simply an early implementation of something that will become more elaborate and significant?
This is a really good example of how having something in early access helps us prioritize and focus on the right things. This is obviously a very hot topic within the community, and it's also something that is frequently discussed within the team. I will describe my general goal for this. When something is very skinny and made of many stacked parts, it should wobble. I think that if we were to move completely beyond rigid body physics, that we would have kind of subverted one of the things that's very fun and funny about this game. Do we want larger vehicles? Do we want our interstellar vehicles to be wobbling around? Do we want stuff that's larger than let's say the 3.75 meter core size to be wobbling all over the place? We do not. We are not happy with the current wobbliness of the vehicles. This is an area of current focus and heavy iteration and testing, and it will get better.
Awesome. Our next question is from Almon, also from the Discord. What was your favorite thing to work on in KSP2? Also, what was your least favorite thing to work on?
Favorite thing would be probably tutorials. It kind of tapped into my own passions as a storyteller and, especially a visual storyteller. Learning how much more efficiently we could convey core concepts via animations was a joyous process. And we're obviously very excited to see that they work. My least favorite, probably tutorials. In that we had to iterate like crazy. We had to redo them, reanimate them multiple times. Multiple animatics, multiple comics that we built. It's gone through many text iterations. It's just a thing that if it's not communicating effectively, you have to tear it down and start over. And we eventually had breakthroughs on every single one of them, but it was a process. Yeah.
Awesome. Our next one is from Deb, also from Discord. What has been the most challenging feature to work on? So sort of the same question.
Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously, tutorials. For the team, I think probably the primary technical challenge was adapting the architecture for interstellar scale, accelerating trajectories,
yep.
Time warp under acceleration, and then, of course, multiplayer. That is a gigantic engineering ask and touches every part of the game and makes it so that there's no such thing as a simple or easy change. There's just a lot of complexity under the hood. So that's made all of the features challenging to work on.
Yeah.
But again, we're making huge progress.
Awesome. Our next one here is from also from the Discord, Minotaur 1501. What was your initial introduction to KSP?
I already did, PY.
I started playing in 2012. I think it's probably like around version 0.16. I do remember when EVA arrived, because prior to that, my MUN rescue missions involved like contraptions that used landing legs to scoop up
Dude.
landed capsules.
Oh, I remember
In
doing
fact, that's
that.
how I learned about the difference between the sort of rigid body physics and the on rails physics. Like I painstakingly scooped up a rescued capsule to bring back from the MUN, and then time warped and lost everything. It was
Yep.
very sad. It's my first true sadness in the game. But yeah, I've been playing it for quite a while. I got a couple thousand hours in KSP1. I have no idea. I've actually never tracked what I have in KSP2. I wonder if I probably have bigger numbers in KSP2 now. That's interesting.
Cool. Our next one is also from the Discord, Master Chef 117.
Dude, I remember having
How
to
has
do
community
that.
feedback shaped your vision and priorities for the game?
I mean, I think it depends how far back we're going with community feedback. Like I've been a member of the community for so long, so the whole wish list of features that I brought to the beginning of the project was probably heavily influenced by conversations that I took part in the community. So hopefully we're in pretty good alignment on a lot of those things. More recently, obviously this feedback helps us to prioritize. The wobbly rockets thing is a really good example. One weirdly and unexpectedly cool thing about having the community giving us their feedback is that it keeps us from over focusing on things that turn out not to actually be a major issue for the community. Like you never really know, what is palatable or what's going to bug someone, and sometimes someone internally, and I'm probably chief among them, I'll over-index on something that's just irritating to me, and it's good to have context that, oh, you know what, this is just you, Nate. Like most people are fine with this thing, so why don't you focus on the things that people would like to see improve in the short term? So it's been very helpful in that way.
That's good to
Awesome.
have your
Our next
creative
one is
director
from,
take all that stuff
Ball
seriously,
HJ on the Discord. What has been your favorite part or experience in developing KSP2?
Well, gosh, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to work on this is that I had the experience of recommending KSP1 to people and, feeling in my heart that it's the best game that's ever been made. And then they try it and they bounce off of it. And so much of that was about that first-time user experience just being very challenging. All the things that make it a perceived to be a hardcore game. And being able to improve that onboarding, that first-time user experience, so that people no longer bounce off of it, and that I can now invite those same people to play Kerbal with the understanding that the core of the gameplay is unchanged, and have them have a good experience and get excited about it in the same way that I feel excited about it is maybe one of the greatest things I've ever felt in my life. Like, it's really cool to finally be able to share this with people who are, important to me in my life, my family and friends.
Awesome. Our next one here is from S Ball from the Discord. Will certain resources needed for colony construction to be planet biome specific?
Yeah, I mean, it's that diversity of resources that's going to make exploration mode so fun.
Awesome.
Instead of the goals being, KSP1 for the most part, with the exception of contracts and career mode, for the most part, the things that you set as your own goals are self-directed. And when they're not self-directed, they're kind of dry, right? Like take the temperature at 20,000 meters at such and such latitude and longitude. When there is a unique resource somewhere that gates your access to a category of parts and exists in only one location that is very hard to get to, especially if that location represents a unique physics challenge against which you're going to have to design a new vehicle architecture.
There's going to be...
Wow, it just totally changes the game.
There's going to be rare resources on Eve.
You're getting something material, a literal material, by going to that location. So
Yep. There's gonna
yeah,
be
the
resources on
the
Eve.
interplanetary and then the interstellar progression
Damn
is
it.
really, I think, gonna pop when you're able to dig up a specific thing that gives you a specific ability.
Awesome. And then we have from another user from Discord, Master Chef 117 again. Has there been any piece of community feedback / content that you and the team find especially motivating?
Oh yeah, I mean, some of the stuff I already talked about, like people, anytime I hear a testimonial about somebody who wasn't able to get into the original game, who is able to get into KSP2, that's extremely motivating. Um, uh, Especially when it's kids. Like I love hearing that a kid has gotten excited about space because
That's the best part.
they played our game. We're already hearing that.
That
and we're only a
feedback
few
on
weeks
stream
in.
is what makes my day.
And it's great to hear kudos about the things we're doing well, right? I mean, when we hear that somebody thinks we're on the right track, that feels good. Whether it's visual quality stuff or the soundtrack, or I know Howard Mostrom, our sound guy, and
Howard's
also
the
the
man.
composer of our soundtrack.
This is live, Funky. Yep.
Has just been sort of showered with praise, and it is absolutely deserved. Anytime any of us sees anything online, we forward it to him. And I'm so happy to see him, front and center in the limelight and being appreciated for what he's bringing to the game.
Give Howard a raise.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, when we hear nice things said about us,
it's been out for about a month,
for sure.
But it's early access. But KSP2 has been out for a good while, man.
Our next one is from Birch Mallard Man, also used on the Discord. How often does the dev team play the game?
Every day.
We have team-wide play tests twice a week. I think most of us play every day. I definitely play every day.
See?
And then the QA team probably plays every hour, every minute. So given that they're a significant portion of our team, the short answer is we're all playing the game all the time, basically.
Yep. Yeah, we have another question from Master Chef 117, also from the Discord. What non-KSP game / piece of media has inspired you and the team the most?
So it's not like what is our favorite; it's what has inspired us. Well, there's a video that we show people when they join the team. It's called The Wanderers. It's by a guy named Eric Vernquist. I highly recommend look it up on YouTube. It is a beautiful, very short video that, in many ways, we kind of think of as our North Star in terms of the feeling that we want KSP2 to generate. It's got a Carl Sagan voiceover, and it's just these sort of beautiful rendered scenes of, humankind exploring the solar system in the kind of near future. Really love that one. It is something that I myself watch fairly frequently, and I know everyone else on the team likes it a lot too.
I don't think that's the right stuff.
Awesome. And then we have another one from Discord, username Kev. Will there be more tutorials in game, such as the ones being uploaded to TikTok, etc.?
So that refers to two different things. We have these kind of TikTok tips and tricks. Boy, that's a hard thing to say.
TikTok tips and tricks
that we are continuing to make like on nearly a weekly or a bi-weekly basis. Michael, you could probably speak to that more than I can, but Matthew Pope, one of the members of our community team, has been doing this amazing job of putting together these assets. They're really fun and funny and informative. If we're talking about the in-game tutorials, we've got quite a few already made. I think like the animations I think are completed for like 9 or 10 of them. So, as new features are being brought into the game, their associated tutorials will come in alongside them. So yeah, there's a lot to come in that area.
Awesome. Our next one is also from the Discord, username Unknown Dude. When Interstellar is implemented, are the different solar systems going to be stationary, or are they going to orbit something similar? Going to orbit something to simulate a galaxy?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I learned very early in the project when we were talking about Interstellar is that the movement of stars around galactic center is extremely counterintuitive and doesn't follow the same rules that your normal like sort of Keplerian elliptical orbits work in planetary environment. And you're dealing with things like dark matter and really, like, especially within a local frame of reference, the movement of stars can seem to be erratic, chaotic, unpredictable. So our current implementation is that they do move relative to the galactic plane, kind of like horses on a merry-go-round. We want other stars to be moving targets, so that you have to do planning just like you have to do with an interplanetary maneuver, and you'll need to try to get an intercept in the same way, but obviously across a much larger distance. So yeah, short answer, yes, they move.
Awesome. Our next one's also from the Discord. Username Kroko. Procedural wings are great, but are there plans for procedural parts? Maybe for fuel tanks?
Yeah, this is always a question we're asking ourselves, right? Like, what is the threshold beyond which we have over proceduralized the game and it's not Kerbal Space Program anymore? Because a big part of it is still, working with what you've got, working with those modular parts. But we know that certain kinds of players really want to optimize things. And something like procedural tanks would certainly open up a lot more options for those kinds of people. Right now, the next planned procedural part is procedural radiators. I think we've already even released images of those in action. Those are needed for interstellar. In fact, probably when you're talking about the silhouette of an interstellar craft, the radiators is probably the key feature.
I'll see if I can boost Mike's microphone.
After that's in, I think we'll take a look at what our priorities are, what the community's priorities are. Personally, I'm not sure that fuel tanks is the next thing that I would proceduralize. I think there's probably a decent case to make for solar panels. But yeah, that'll be a conversation that we'll be following along with.
All right, here. I'll try to boost Mike's microphone.
We have another one from the Discord here. User Ray Sparks. Are there going to be significant changes to the science system in KSP2, or any changes that you feel are worth talking about?
Sorry. Yeah. So just for context, the first of the progression modes that we'll be releasing in an upcoming roadmap update is science mode. And similar to KSP1's science mode, in the broad strokes, you gather science by exploring new locations, and then you redeem that science at an R&D center, which unlocks nodes on a tech tree, which gives you access to new kinds of parts. Differences would include, we don't want people to be able to just gather huge amounts of science around KSC. We want to encourage people to go out into the universe to gather that science. So that is a change. I think we're also looking at diversifying science biomes a little bit, so that in some cases it may be similar to KSP in terms of you just land in a region of a certain celestial body and get science, but there may also be some more localized discoveries that require a little bit more searching, and those will also yield science. And then I think one thing we haven't talked too much about is that there is a mission system that supplements both the science and exploration modes. They're not contracts, but they are a sort of opt-in mission system that gives you a reward for doing a particular thing. So that will sort of exist in lockstep with the science.
Awesome. Our next one also comes from Discord, a username Tech. What is your favorite KSP2 mod so far?
We are impressed by how many exist already. I should have predicted that, but
he hasn't.
Still awesome and surprising. Selfishly, probably the one I love the most right now is one from Linux Guru Gamer, who I think a lot of people in the modding community already are well acquainted with. It's a bug reporting script that collects all the relevant logs and files and packs them up for a bug report. It makes our jobs so much easier to have actual files to look at when we're trying to diagnose a problem. So if you haven't gotten that one yet, check it out. I forget what it's actually called, but Linux Guru Gamer is the guy who made it.
Linux
Yeah.
is a
Definitely awesome.
really good software
Cool.
guy.
Our next one is. Sorry, my finger slipped. Also from the Discord, our username Motorbike List. What has the morale been like throughout development?
Ooh, throughout development, over the entire development of the game.
It's called the Mod Father.
Again, I'm speaking for a bunch of people who aren't here to speak for themselves. My impression, overall, good. I think it's at a high point right now because we now have a trajectory line and it's pointed in the right direction.
I'm in the Discord, but I can't speak, Rec.
And I think it's been great for morale to no longer be working in a vacuum. I think it's possible to kind of feel like we're toiling away at the bottom of a dark hole. But now that we've released, you see the effects of the
Pretty cool
improvements that you
elevator
make
guy.
to the game very rapidly.
Pretty much
Yesterday
down
I was
there.
looking through the KSP2 screenshots Discord, and just marveling at how much more ambition has been unlocked just by the first patch. And I know the game still has bugs. We're still, heading into patch 2. There's going to be a lot of additional fixes going in. But even with the things that were corrected in patch 1, people are having more fun. And to see that kind of direct consequence of the work that you're putting into the game is, boy, it feels great.
Cool. Our next one is also from the Discord, username Diver. For the far-off colonization update, how will buildings work? Will we assemble them ourselves by landing modules or making them on site and moving them into position, or will it be more of a prefabricated type of building system?
Listen to this.
Yeah. So we have an inflatable founder module. I think it's actually been seen already in some asset or other. That you put on a vehicle and you bring it to a location, and once you deploy it, you basically pick a spot. It's basically like you're setting up a space camping site, and you set it up, and it basically deploys its own VAB style interface. It's called a BAE, I think it's a base assembly editor. And within that interface, you can use local materials. And once you have an in situ resource utilization module, use even locally extracted raw resources to add new modules onto the colony. So it's a very VAB style interface where you're clicking things together. There are attached nodes similarly to putting together a vehicle. And yeah, that's how you build a colony.
Yeah.
And
VAB
the same
at
rules
KSP is
apply
modular.
to an orbital colony.
You just place it anywhere theoretically.
You set up your camping site at an orbit that you want it to be.
Oh, that's so freaking cool.
Cool. Our next one also is from Discord, a username BillC0507. When will water physics be fixed and properly added?
Yeah, I mean, especially because we have a boat launch now where you can send vehicles to immediately sink. We're definitely working on that area. Yeah, I mean, buoyancy and associated systems, including like hydrodynamic drag, the behavior of vehicles when they collide with a fluid surface.
This is live, Mary.
They're all being worked on right now. Yeah, it's an area of parallel development that's going on alongside all of the performance improvements and stability improvements.
No, but I'll just say this.
Cool.
Orbital colonies are going to be
Discord,
needed
username
for
Ollie Gaming.
Certain ship sizes.
Now that the first patch is out, what are you mainly focusing on?
In metal?
Yeah, kind of what I just said. Stability, performance, and then new features in that order. Obviously, I am eager to see heat represented. We have released some images of the reentry heating effect, but there's also, of course, the actual thermal systems associated with that heating. My personal feeling is that once we have that in place, we have what is the metaphor I've been using? It felt a little bit to me like until we had those, we kind of had a dog with 3 legs, and thermal being the 4th leg. So once we have that, I feel like the structural outlines of the core experience are in place. I'm eager to see that happen.
They know about controller
We have another
support,
one here from the Discord, username SNJar. Any plans to have a solid planet that is about the size of Jool or perhaps larger?
I'm curious about the physics of a solid planet that's the size of a gas giant. So we do have a
What a
super
nerd.
Earth in the game. It's called Oven. I think it's in the Deb system. Obviously, that's all coming with the Interstellar update. Sorry, I shouldn't say we have. We will have.
Perfect.
The asset exists internally. It's not as big as Joule. I think
Thanks,
it's like
man.
0.6 larger, 60% larger than Kerbin.
Wow.
And it's got its own rings. It's definitely big enough to make landing hard. It doesn't take very much more
About a half hour
gravity
around,
for things to get real dicey when you're trying to land on a hard surface. But yeah, not currently any plans for a Joule-sized terrestrial planet. Yeah, I would be curious to hear from the community whether that's a thing they want, and
Yes.
maybe we could talk about it.
Our next one here is from Boylonian, also from the Discord.
If they don't
Will
answer
there
my
be
question, Uncle X, I'll just ask
XL-sized
Mike
launch
later.
engines? And if so, are there any estimates on when they would be added?
Yeah. So I don't know specifically what they have in mind, but yeah, there's some really big engines that will arrive with the Interstellar update. I mean, people have seen images with the inertial confinement fusion engine, what's called the Crucible. That thing is gigantic. It's very, very large. But yeah, there are some big engines coming for sure.
Cool. Our next one here is also from the Discord. Username Vortigaunt.
Vortigaunt.
Will we
The
have
Freeman.
and when realistic plasma smoke tail after re-entering spacecraft and different colors of heated plasma because of different speeds of re-entry?
I mean, let me one up you. Different atmospheres probably have different colors of plasma, right? Different ionization.
Does that mean
attributes.
Lathe re-entry is going to be blue?
So, going back to that iterative development point, the first version of re-entry heating will.
I'll say it in a second.
It may just be uniform for all atmospheres. The spec aspirationally calls for different colors depending on velocity and local conditions. So yeah, hopefully we just continue to watch it grow over time.
Cool. Another one here from the Discord. Username Soul666. Was there ever a bug in early development that was so hilarious that the team still references it today?
Kraken drives.
Yeah, there's an infamous one. So
See if I'm
the
right.
RCS puffs involve a cone-shaped mesh, or at least they did. And it's basically an invisible mesh to which a visual effect is applied when
Nate's
the
Good
RCS
People
block
musical.
fires. And we had a very frustrating bug where every vehicle launching off the pad would make it to a certain velocity and then just rip itself apart immediately, violently. And we were trying to figure out, like, is this happening when we're crossing a frame of reference threshold, or like, is there a collider somewhere? Like, we really could not figure it out. And it turned out that those meshes for those RCS puffs were generating drag. They had not been excised from the drag system, and they were basically each generating more drag than a fully deployed parachute. So anything that they were attached to would just immediately get ripped off.
Oh my gosh!
So yeah, that one was. I think we all had a huge laugh when we realized how silly and stupid the actual bug was. And it's always nice when it turns out not to be like a
that happens.
Fundamental flaw with the architecture. So yeah, that one was fun.
So Shadow, you could always watch this
VOD
also back,
from
dude.
the Discord. Username BJQP. Will atmosphere-rich celestial bodies have weather patterns sometime in the future? And they have a follow-up to that, asking, if so, would the weather have any physical effect on your vessel?
Maybe failures. I don't know.
I mean, now we're there. Okay, so I'll give you the short answer, which is we do not have short-term plans for that. We have planets that have an axial tilt, which means, we were tantalizingly close to having a justification for not only weather but seasons. Obviously, there's a lot of bigger stuff we need to focus on in the short term. Again, very long runway for KSP2. So I never say never for anything. And personally, as a player, if we were to do something like weather, of course you'd want it to affect gameplay, right? Like you wouldn't want it to just be purely visual, because then why do it? But yeah, that's definitely aspirational. But I would love to see it. So, there's also always this sort of in the back of your head, you're thinking,
no,
as we begin to unleash
tilt.
the power of the modders, as we make the game increasingly moddable, what might they achieve? We've seen the amazing things they do in KSP1. So sometimes there's something in the back of my head that's, I'm curious what they will achieve.
We completed it, Funky. Yeah, we got him back.
Awesome. We also from the Discord, username Veggie. What is one feature /part/idea you really wanted to implement, but would not /could not for whatever reason?
That's a good
This
question.
game is unique among the games that I've worked on in that it's pretty rare to say no to things. It's more that everything lives on a spectrum of priority. So I think that you'll frequently see things being deferred because there are other things that are more important to work on. Like Chris and I, we really want a proper airliner cockpit, but as we build these cockpits and then as we implement IVA cockpits, there's a non-zero resource cost to building these out at a high level of quality.
It takes
but
time.
I want it.
But I want
we'll get to it someday. So that's maybe an example.
Same user. Once the game is complete, with everything on the roadmap implemented and debugged, is it possible development will continue with new features?
Oh yeah, that's a plan. Like KSP got updates over a decade, so yeah, we'd like to do the same thing.
Oh, that's so nice to hear.
Next one here is also from the Discord, username Strata. Will interactable IVAs be a thing?
Yep, that's part of the plan. Can't speak to timing, but the cockpits were made with IVA in mind. If you've ever moved the camera inside one of those cockpits, you can see empty sockets where artificial horizons will live and that sort of thing. So, yep, definitely part of the plan.
Dude, I'll do IVA
also
VR.
From the Discord, username
if they ever
Max
do it,
V.
I'll do it.
What's your favorite KSP2 creation thus far, by you or anyone else?
Basically an inside view.
That depends largely on
activity,
the day that you're asking me. And also, I should really highlight that a lot of different people on the team are following what people create, and everyone has a favorite category of thing. I know that Ness, our art director, just loves it when people make things they're not supposed to make, whether it's flying lawnmowers or giant shopping carts or dragons, because she's an artist and she loves to see people using it as an artistic medium.
Ness is cool.
I think the one that I actually started up an internal Slack channel to track. A lot of people have been making F4 Phantom aircraft. And some of them, I don't know what it. I don't have any special affection for F4 Phantoms. They're cool, but there have just been so many attempts at that plane, and they're all so impressive that I started collecting them in a Slack channel just to kind of share them with other people on the team.
Dude, it's because F4 is the best. Goes faster than anything.
Our next question here is from Sim1, also from the Discord.
I haven't,
Do you
drummer.
plan
Maybe
to
we
add
should today.
life support to the game like the USI life support mod for KSP1?
Good question.
Yeah, we've made a determination that, at least in the short term, the addition of life support won't enhance gameplay all that much for most players.
Fair.
Obviously, a lot of people have a lot of fun with life support mods in KSP1. Once again, we're hoping that once modability is easier, that segment of the player base can be served in that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, that's my position on that right now.
Yeah.
Well, same user. Do you plan to add telescopes and asteroids early in the game already?
Please be yes. Please be yes. Please be yes.
We have already made assets for both. But obviously implementation is a different matter, and we'll implement them when priority and when the schedule allows.
Yeah, Atlantic for sure, man.
Cool. Username Lihazos. Sorry if I butchered that one. Many community members across the modding scene have noticed certain models often contain insane polygon counts.
Asteroids and
Will those be
telescopes do.
reviewed for optimization passes too?
I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, provided it's not an insane polygon count that is insane for a reason, like those IVA cockpits. I've definitely heard people say, "Why are you spending all these polygons on
Nice,
these cockpits?" And the simple answer to that one is, well, eventually there will be a camera living in there, and it'll be needed. But occasionally, an unusually high poly count will sneak through on an asset that doesn't need it. When we find those, we revise them as
Part
the
count is
schedule
real.
allows. If you keep close
you're
eye
making 3D models.
on our patch notes, you will frequently see a
You just said
very
telescopes,
generally worded item that just says something like mesh optimization or something like that, and that often can encompass the overhaul of many parts.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's an ongoing project for sure.
Cheers. If you need help with KSP1, ask me. Please.
Next one is from user program. Will we see many more star systems or interstellar objects added throughout the game's map as the years go on?
Right, we've committed to 3 star systems during early access in the lead up to 1.0.
Wow.
I would love to add more after 1.0, circumstances permitting. So yeah, that's not an official plan. I have not vetted this with anyone else on the team. But certainly, when we talk about these things, we're constantly having new ideas for interesting celestial bodies that would, I mean, obviously, the key justification for the invention of a new celestial body is, does it create a new kind of gameplay? Does it require
I
you
think there
to
is Hellfish.
think of a new kind of vehicle to conquer it? Yeah, occasionally we have new ideas, and when we have those ideas, we have a desire to bring them into being at some point.
Cool. Next one here is from username Butterlord. Will asteroids make a return, or foreign bodies in general?
Yep, artists have already made them. Just again, a matter of when they make sense in the schedule.
We have one here from user per2233. Will there be something similar to career mode where will you add planes, challenges, contracts?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier about missions. They're going to be issued in both science and exploration mode. Obviously, we replaced money as the critical constraint
Want me to ask them?
with resources, right? Especially as you move into the interstellar progression.
I know people.
The thing that is the limiting factor to what you're able to build at any given colony is what the local resource availability is, and that's constrained by whatever delivery routes you've set up and how much local resource collection you're doing to and from the colony itself. It's a much more materials-based gating. So that's about as close as we get to career mode. They live in a I guess it's not post-scarcity because they still have to dig stuff up, but they're a post-monetary society.
Can we get a next user here? Is Phase. Can we get a wind tunnel at the KSC for testing aerodynamics?
Oh, please.
So there is a spec, not for a wind tunnel, although that would be rad. But there is a spec for an expansion of the center of functionality in the VAB to give you more detailed information about the lift, drag, thrust, and weight attributes of your vehicle.
Yeah,
in a way that's
put it
sort of
in the VAB.
visual and
Smart.
intuitive, and that responds dynamically to the removal of or addition of parts to the vehicle. It's not a wind tunnel, but I think it will be diagnostic in a way that a wind tunnel might be. A wind tunnel would be cool.
Do it,
yeah.
Nate. Do it.
I'd like to
Do
think
it.
more about what that would
Do
look
it.
like and
Do it, Anakin.
how we might visualize
Do it.
the results.
Do it, Anakin.
Next one here's from Nova Raptor.
Hey!
Will robotics be implemented in a future update?
Good question.
Probably not before 1.0.
Damn.
Just given how much work there is in the run up to 1.0. And also we would,
Well, that's not the
when we
answer I
get
wanted
to
to hear,
something
but
like
all right.
that, we're going to want it to be really well implemented. I don't want it to be an afterthought. I want it to sort of build off of lessons we learned from robotics in KSP1. Definitely a thing we want someday.
Next one here is from Physicist. Are there plans to have collaborations for missions and or other scenarios in game with IRL space agencies such as NASA, ESA, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, KSP1 has done it in the past.
Of course I do know.
And we're absolutely still open to it. A lot of that stuff is contingent on what NASA and ESA are doing at any given moment. We're obviously pretty excited about all the Lunar Gateway stuff. We're obviously excited about Starship. You know, if any potential institutional or, let's say collaborator is out there and wanting to reach out to us to talk, we're absolutely waiting by the phones.
They said they're aiming for a 10-year runway, Mauser.
Next question is from user Sing Pizza. Who is your favorite Kerbal?
For completely personal reasons, Tim C. Kerman is my favorite. He's based on a friend of mine who also was an artist on the game during its early development, who has passed away, who many of us on the team have worked with for many, many years and love very much. And so we based Tim C. Kerman on Tim Cox. And I don't know, every time I see that character, it makes me feel warm feelings. So yeah, that's my answer to that one.
Our next one here is from Canatics. Will we be able to terraform planets in the future, like Eve and Duna?
Nope.
Yeah. No.
Answer today. Our next one here is from
Oh, okay. Well, sorry. I don't know how far down we want to go down the road on that one. I'm trying to think what is the likelihood of that being something that modders could attempt. But yeah, not a thing that is a priority for us right now.
Terraforming drummer.
That's fair. Our next one here is from I Like Ike. What event in IRL space exploration that you experienced, learned about had the most significant impact on you?
I don't know how many people lived through the spaceflight drought of the 90s and the early 2000s. There was definitely a period during which it felt like we were kind of stuck in neutral as a civilization, and it was probably Robert Zubrin who kept me afloat through that era. He wrote a lot about a proposed architecture called Mars Direct. I just appreciated that he was moving the ball forward toward a goal, and we still all kind of revere him and think he's amazing. So yeah, that's had a pretty big impact.
Next one from user Banjo.
Facts,
what
Rich.
feature of KSP2 are you most excited for, and why is it interstellar travel?
Well, I am excited for interstellar travel. The thing I think is going to most radically alter the gameplay experience is sort of the combination of colonies and delivery routes. I think when you're starting to build out an interstellar infrastructure, things get very creative and very interesting, and yeah, I can't wait for it.
Next one here from Unbagettable. What is your opinion on data mining in the game? Do you feel that stuff is getting leaked, or are you excited that data mines give the community a lot of hope for the game?
I mean, people are going to root around and stuff. They're curious and they're enthusiastic, and I just take it as a sign that people are excited about the game. And so, game on, dig around.
Cool. The next one is from username Alaska. Any thoughts on adding VR support to KSP2 in the future?
I want it really badly, but it's definitely a conversation for after 1.0.
Cool. Next one from user Porbus. Now that we have a boat launch option, is it likely that we'll get a dedicated boat or submersible parts at some point in the future?
Good question.
Yep, as part of the new buoyancy spec, ballast parts and fluid pumps are in the mix there. So there would very likely be some specialized parts probably interacted within the resource manager,
that's
where
bad.
you're transferring fluids from the
Not
surrounding
good.
medium into and out of your vehicle.
Not good.
Next one from Tancho.
Not good.
Which aspect of development or which upcoming feature do you really think will make the game unique when compared to KSP 1?
Frick.
Do you think the current performance problems will stick around or become more prominent as new features are being added?
I mean, of course the current performance problems will not stick around. I mean, they're going down daily. And of course, they
Vulcan,
need to
I'm
be very
screwed,
aggressively
man.
addressed, because perf optimization is critical for the arrival of colonies and interstellar, and then multiplayer takes all of those things and multiplies them. So yeah, those performance problems will always be a thing that we're constantly pursuing. And
It is a
and
launch pad,
improving.
John.
Next one's from user Octopus. Orbital colonies have been mentioned. Will they have a set orbit once the first part has been built, or will they be able to move like with engines like other spacecraft?
That's a good question.
They're coasting rigid body arrays. They're basically just like very large vessels. There will not be engines in the BAE when you're making an orbital colony, but I cannot prevent you from pulling a what's this, the Star Wars with the hammerhead corvettes or whatever, and shoving your thing and making it crash. That's for you to do. Sorry, I sound so old. What's the Star War with the Rogue One? Did I? Is that the one? That's the one.
That's the one with
Dude.
shield generators being added. No, okay, we're getting back on topic here.
The
So
orbital
Birch
shipyards
Mallardman,
are not going to
what
be on
suggestions from the
rails.
community do you think were helpful?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about this. The prominence of the wobbly rocket conversation has been pretty illuminating. Super helpful to learn user experience pain points. Where does the UI work? Where does it not?
They seem
Where do
to
people
imply
get
that
stuck?
elevator guy, yeah.
The community's really been helping us shine a light on where we need to improve.
And then real quick, I know we're getting close on time here, but we're going to still keep answering some questions because we have a bunch left. We're going to try and go over probably 10 or 15 minutes. So thanks for hanging out. Maybe we'll go longer. We're trying to get to the questions. We want to make sure everyone here is definitely heard. Our next question here is from Raven X 1984. Will rotors and hinges be coming back at some point?
Yeah, it's part of the post 1.0 conversation. I would like them to.
Next one from Munch42. How useful will orbital construction be, and how awesome are the colonies?
Completely critical to the interstellar progression. You
See?
cannot make a proper interstellar vehicle inside of gravity well. They're just too big.
I'll
Someone will
ping
prove
Nate.
me wrong and make an interstellar vehicle and launch it from KSC, and I wish them luck.
Good luck with that one, yeah.
Cool. Next one is from username Bear4224. Does the terrain system support overhangs and caves, or is it still using the old height map system?
No.
I need to call you out for saying old height map system. We are using a height map system. It is a new height map system. And it's, of course, continuing to see improvements, as you may have read in Mortalk's recent dev blog.
It's definitely new.
So, no, it's height map based. So if we're going to if we perceive there to be a gameplay justification for overhangs in caves, those will probably need to be built out of static meshes.
Yeah, they'll be 3D modeled.
But currently, we do not have specific plans for that.
Next one's from the username Meek. Will there be secret launch sites added, or will we build custom launch pads on other planets?
Okay, two answers for that one. On Kerbin, the plan is to have 4 separate agency launch sites that are basically 4 different KSCs equidistantly placed around the equator. That's for multiplayer. And then obviously colony vehicle assembly buildings are launch pads on other planets. So you can place one anywhere you want to once the colony system's online.
Next one's from MMDMK5. Will we be able to reach the speed of light and or FTL?
You will not. Physics says no. So in our pursuit of realism, we have determined very early on in the project that there will be no fancy magic technologies. So light is the ultimate speed limit.
Cool.
We'll
Next
find a
one
way to do it.
here is from Neo Paradox. What are goals and visions for multiplayer? How do you see players interact with each other? Will players be able to go on collective missions on the same crafts? Will players be able to share colony buildings once that comes out and create?
Man, that's like 8 questions in one. I mean, right. So there's the asynchronous player story, which is that someone's hosting a multiplayer game. Me and my friends are sort of checking in and out of that game over maybe multiple days, where but maybe we're all aligned in the same agency, so we're sharing our science payout, and so I can go gather some science by doing a particular mission, and then we all have a little bit extra to play with the next time my friends log in. We're sharing physical resources and setting up delivery routes between each other's colonies, that sort of thing. There's also this idea of synchronous multiplayer where you're doing, I don't know, car races, plane races, space races. I am even now somewhat curious to see which of those two turns out to be like the predominant way people play multiplayer. I'm excited about both.
Cool. Next one's from Veggie. What is your favorite book?
Well, my favorite book series is the Master and Commander books. But
Nice.
my
Nice.
my favorite single book, probably for nostalgia reasons, there's a book called A Fire Upon the Deep by someone named Werner Vinge. Big galaxy scale, big idea, science fiction. Yeah, that one's great. I love that one.
We have one from user F. Calva.
What a nerd.
Will we have rough insulation surfaces for spacecraft parts instead of metallic to paint the spectrum?
It is a thing that the art team is constantly discussing internally. So, no promises there, but obviously something that's on our radar.
And from Gordon Lemon, will there be more colony parts than what is shown in the trailers?
Yes.
Username False007.
That was quick.
Will the surface of the moons and planets in space, and when landed, be more detailed in the distant future?
Yep. With Mortok's new terrain system, yes.
That's the new graphics guy, the graphics engineer that they hired.
The
CBTS
Lone Wolf
terrain system.
What would you say is the most troublesome feature to get working over the course of KSP2's development?
Procedural wings probably required an unusually high amount of A, B, C, and D testing, like just constantly back and forth, trying to get them tuned to work correctly and feel good, and have the experience of building them feel good, and have them be good looking, and even things like how editable should they be? What should the limits look like? There was just a shocking amount of edge cases to explore with those, but very happy with what we ended up with.
Next one here's from user Up. What kind of ranges can we expect with colonies? Will all colonies be roughly the same size? Will we be able to have small 1 to 2 launch research colonies along with the gigantic industrial ones? Will there be any upper size limit?
So there's no plan for an enforced upper size limit. They are very similar to the constraints that apply to vehicles, right? It is a thing that is made of parts, and we want people to be able to make it as large as they want to make it. But obviously, not all computers are created equal, and not all personal ambitions are created equal. And I'm sure people will find where their personal size limit is. It probably has to do with how low a frame rate they can tolerate. Very similar logic applies to colonies and vehicles.
Yeah, that's where a big graphics card is going to be
user
useful.
Monocle. Do you expect multiplayer KSP2 to overtake single-player KSP2 in terms of player count and development when it releases? In other words, will single-player KSP2 become mostly obsolete?
I've never thought about that. There's something about single-player KSP2. It can be very meditative. You come home at the end of a day, and part of the way you unwind is just noodle around with some parts and goof around. I don't think that'll ever go away. I won't always want to be sharing what I'm doing with other people. We'll see. That's an interesting question.
We have one here from Mo Eggs. What is the reason behind not allowing early access players the ability to use the debug menu? Since it's a sandbox game, its submission seems odd, especially for early access. Will it be included at some point for single-player campaigns?
Yeah, so those debug controls have mostly been added, for internal developer purposes, but they have not necessarily been subjected to the same quality assurance process or even a structured design validation process that we want to see for something public facing. So,
No way, Quack.
especially because some systems that you might not expect to break do get broken when you use things like teleportation. The presence of those debug controls introduces this huge additional factor against which we need to, when we're reviewing bug reports, for example, if we discover that something is taking place as a result of failed teleportation or something, it adds a bunch of new variables that at the moment we don't want to be tracking. I do think we want there to be a sanctioned debug menu for players, but our sketchy internal version is not ideal, and we'd rather not add that into the mix.
I have one from username Zentronics. Will KSP2 wheels finally work as intended?
I mean, anecdotally, they've improved. We're keeping a close eye on user reports around wheels, and we think they're better than they've ever been. But definitely call it out if you come across a behavior that you think is beyond the pale.
Username Tube here wants to know, what besides Kerbal Space Program 2, what have you worked on before?
Oh boy.
That's a good question.
Well, I've been in games since 1993. This is my 30th anniversary making video games. Isn't that crazy? I guess it'll be June. June will be my 30th anniversary. First thing I ever worked on was something called Fast Action Pack, which is a bunch of like knockoff 8-bit games for a company called the Dreamers Guild. That was in 1993. I worked on I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream at that company. I worked on Starfleet Command 2. I worked on Demigod. I did a stint on Bejeweled. I mean, when you've been in this industry as long as I have, you've touched a lot of stuff. Many, many canceled projects that no one's ever heard of. I took a couple years off to work on an indie comic called Non-Player for Image. Yeah, been all over the place.
I was going to say congrats
Nate's
on 30
above,
years of
Nate's
achievement.
above 50.
But next question here we have.
Are you congratulating me for staying alive for that long, or?
No, it's just video games. It's an achievement. I feel like we got to get you a medal, but we'll talk about that later. Our next one here is from Ooga Booga. Do you play any games outside of KSP? If so, what games?
Right now I'm pretty obsessed. In fact, many of us on the team are pretty obsessed with this VR game called Walkabout Mini Golf. I'm telling you, the future of VR is mini golf. we love it. It is so good, you guys. I don't know. Am I officially allowed to like recommend you buy a game that's not KSP2? First buy KSP2, but then after that, get Walkabout Mini Golf. It's the coolest VR game. We love it.
Perfect. You Walkabout Mini Golf to discuss the rockets you want to build in Kerbal and your downtown.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I guess we got to play golf
We have
now.
one here from Crow. They want to know who makes all of your awesome Kerbal Sona profile pictures.
That's Matt Pope. He's our community artist, and he is the best. Yeah, he made them for all of us. It's really cool.
We have one from user Felix. The performance has improved slightly with the latest patch, but unfortunately, it's still not enough. Will the performance be improved with upcoming patches?
Yes, it will.
We have one here from Roman. How different will the science and science gathering be in KSP2 versus KSP1, or will it be similar?
Oh, similar in the broad strokes.
One from Aaron. Are big features like science or interstellar on the back burner until the game is better optimized, or are there big features being developed alongside bug and performance patches?
Yeah, it's more parallel. We've got a lot of people focused on a lot of different things at the same time.
I have one from Vaporized Kerbal. Do you have an estimated date to release support for controller setups such as HOTAS stick and throttle sets, custom controllers designed specifically for KSP?
There you go,
or
guys.
maybe even a racing sim equipment to use for rovers?
Yeah.
As an owner of a HOTAS stick that I'm not able to use, I can say HOTAS will be supported. No date yet on that, but yeah, it's a point of frustration for me as a player.
One from Hofflet. Do you think spending so much time on KSP2 alone has taken a toll on your mental health?
I'm totally normal. Why would you ask that? No. Alone, KSP2 alone. Like it's just me making it. Is that what they're implying? Yes, programming this entire game by myself has been brutal.
I love the other
No, man,
developers
this is
laughing in the
fun.
back.
We're living the dream. It's hard for me to fully express how it feels like I am living in a dream. It's the best possible life.
I have one from user Soul666. Have you ever, at one point during development, thought about giving up on KSP2 due to reasons? If so, what made you continue anyway? If not, what kept you motivated?
No, I never contemplated giving up. It's too much fun to work on, and it's too. I mean, it's kind of maybe it's a little bit of an obsession. Like you know that there's cooler things coming around the corner, and you just can't wait to see them come into being. And if by your own actions you can bring them to being at a higher level of quality, then you give it everything you've got.
Told you guys,
We have
Nate's
one
the real deal, man.
Won't for
It's the real deal.
Brownlow. I'm so sorry, I can't get the name right. What was launch day like at Intercept Games?
It was exciting. We, I mean, you were there. We drank champagne. Yeah, it was great.
We do love champagne around here. Next one here I have is from Crow, also from previous question they had on from the Discord. When is Jebediah getting his own TV show?
When Hollywood comes knocking. Yeah. Let us know, Hollywood.
Well, we're getting close on time. I'm going to end it on one more question here. This is just want to know what your thoughts are here. This is from Steel Eater from the Discord. Do you pour the milk before or after the cereal?
Oh, God.
Okay, for real, I'm going to ask you this, Michael. You don't pour milk before the cereal, do you?
This is your AMA.
Wait. Okay, now we got to add an hour. I don't understand the utility of pouring the milk before the cereal. Why?
Thank you.
Why would you I'm curious. Why would you do that? What's the goal?
It keeps it from getting soggy, is what I'm told. I don't know. They say it on TikTok. Apparently, maybe I'm wrong. I don't.
I think it's like, I think it's basically like you refill the bowl with the milk. Once you eat all the cereal, you keep refilling the bowl.
Okay, I'm gonna relate what Dakota is saying, which is that you keep refilling the bowl.
Yeah, so once you eat all the cereal, there's still milk left over, so then you can put more cereal. So
is that less true when you?
I don't know. I think people are dumb.
I guess probably. So there's a sort of min-max impulse that I want the optimal isostatic balance or something. Like I want the height of the milk to be exactly correct with respect to the cereal.
Oh,
and then
thank
the cereal
God.
is sometimes buoyant. Maybe there's different answers depending on different cereals.
Well, here's the thing. If you
I'm the
give me
same
Count
way.
Chocula in October and I can put a bunch of milk and have chocolate milk after I'm having it. Also, I don't do regular milk. I want to make sure transparent. So any variety of not regular milk and you
Drink
put
transparent milk?
No, just oat milk, almond milk. I don't know. There's some variety, right? But if you get the Count Chocula, it's my favorite cereal. You put the milk on top of that, and then you eat the cereal, and then you have a chocolate milk treat at the end of that. But the milk goes on top of the cereal. The milk does not go first because that would I can't do that.
Thinking back, I'm not sure I've eaten too many buoyant cereals, but I remember as a kid there were like highly buoyant, like Crunch Berries or something. They float, right? So does that change the calculus? Like, do you?
But they get so.
They get waterlogged and then they go down. I don't know.
I hope players our discussion.
Yeah.
Around the table talking back and forth.
That was a window into our process.
So I just to get the answer to the question here, Nate. You put the cereal and then the milk.
I put the cereal and then the milk.
But it has to be in the
now I'm
proper
questioning that
proportions.
choice. I started out very skeptical, but I'd like to hear the use cases.
Well, I guess I'm good. If anyone has good use cases, please leave them in the chat. We'll be sure to read them. I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. I know that there's a lot of questions that didn't get answered. We are going to be putting out a document later, and if some of the questions that we did miss, we will go ahead and type them up and get those for you. Those will still be from Nate Simpson. So look from that from the team here later today. And again, thank you. But on that note, Nate, do you have any parting words for our community?
Thank you all for your enthusiasm and your patience. We are, as I said, fueled by that enthusiasm. I know there's Dakota, I think, did we post a highlights? Did we post weekly highlights yet? Oh, that went up yesterday. Okay, great. I will be going to look at those immediately after this conversation. Yeah, I mean, we're just so excited to see people doing surprising things in the game, and we're having a lot of fun watching you all have fun.
Well, on that note, have a wonderful Friday, everyone. Thank you so very much, and until next time, take care.
Bye, everybody.
Hmm.
I think
Where is that sound coming from? Okay. That was coming from the channel. No, what Nate said about cereal first, and then you pour the milk so the milk is just below peak buoyancy for the cereal. So you're pouring the milk in the cereal, right? And then you see the milk come up, and if you pour too much, the whole thing of cereal will rise. That's too much milk. That's too much. It's too much. You got to pour it just so you can see the milk level rise to just below surface level of cereal grain. That's how you pour cereal, man. That's how you do it. Okay? It doesn't, no, it's just it's not at equilibrium. It's slightly below equilibrium, because if you pour the milk, right, and the cereal starts to rise, then you pour too much. If it's equal, that's just a smidgen too much. You're going to have too much milk when you're done with your cereal. Right? And it has to be slightly below, just a little bit below equilibrium, because then the cereal doesn't get inundated with milk. So the cereal stays fresh the entire time. This is important, okay? Did you get your capsule cargo file fixed? I know how to fix it, Journey, yeah. I'm just happy I don't drop the bowl. I do what I want. I like the cereal soggy. It has, like, I don't like dry cereal. Dry cereal is annoying. It has to be, like, in a swampy medium between super soggy and dry. And pouring the milk just a little bit below equilibrium always gets you perfect, half crunchy, half soggy cereal every time. I'll show you guys how to do it. Yeah, exactly. You eat Cocoa Puffs, you get chocolate milk. Mike was right. What is your cereal of choice? Frosted Flakes. Frosted Flakes is what I eat the most right now. But I like most cereals, dude. Shadowzone just said he likes warm milk cereals. Huh. Did they mention when a new patch would come out? If they did, Maverick, I didn't hear it. Yeah, Hans. It was really good. What was your question? I asked about the glyphs on Duna, but Mike didn't see it. It's okay. Yeah, weeks, not months, is what they said. Yeah, so I mean, it was heavily implied from that AMA, guys, that the game's roadmap is pretty well regimented, and the patches are pretty well regimented. So how do I know? Well, Nate was talking about different bug fixes there, and he was talking about how some bug fixes might make it into this patch or the next one. Okay, so what does that mean? Now, you could read that as, oh, it's gonna take a long time. Like this bug is not gonna make it into this this patch because it's gonna take a longer time to solve. But that's not necessarily the case, because he said certain bugs were already solved, but they're gonna make it into the next patch, which implies that the patches are on a regimented schedule, right? And getting the right bug fixes, to the right patch at the right time is important. So that implies that we're going to be seeing them on a fairly routine schedule. So when was the first patch after release? When did that one come out? 3 weeks? 3 weeks after? Something like that? I'd say we're probably going to get a good... I mean, this is just a guess. I don't have any insider information here. I wish I did. I wish I did. But it's I would guess every 3 weeks to a month. That's my guess. 3 week sprints. That sounds right. Or they ignored you like you do me. Oh, I didn't get ignored. I just got my question answered, by the way. Here, let me talk to Mike. See what he's up to. Hang on. You did good, though. Good work. Okay. There you go. From the sounds of it, a patch a month for the first while sounds reasonable to me. I can explain how development cycles works if you want. Nah, drummer, I think I have a reasonable enough extrapolation of how that works. I hear it from Brimo all the time. 2 to 3 weeks per sprint is industry standard in software engineering. You use 2 week sprints. Yep. And the answer is, well, he said he'd get me the answer. So yeah, the whole thing that seems to be implied here, and guys, this isn't anything that I didn't know, but it's better to hear it from Nate than it is from me, right? Like, there's a regimented schedule here. And then Nate said because the parent companies take two, there's a lot of runway. We're talking like space shuttle landing runway here. There's a lot of runway to take the time that you need to make the game right. You know what I mean? So that's good to hear. That's a good thing to hear. That means that they have enough cash to go for a pretty good while, It's on the roadmap, Hans, but I'm not sure when that's going to come out. I know it's on the roadmap, though. So when are you going to start practicing your Eve landings? I don't know. Tell them I say thank you. Okay. Yeah, Jazos and Novaraptor had their questions answered. Yeah, that's cool. So, yeah, I mean, did you get to Duna? I did the challenge. I stayed up way later than I wanted to last night. I completed it. It got a little tough at the end. For whatever reasons, dude, I'm not getting the transfers right, or I'm not understanding what the conics are showing me in the map view. It's probably the second one. But, yeah, it was a difficult day yesterday. And with luck, KSP2 is a passion project for some of the higher-ups at Take-Two. Yeah, that's right, Tessa. It's like I was telling you guys, Nate's the real deal. He's the real deal. I'm not going to say that I kind of went, sized him up, but I kind of did. I wanted to be sure. Because it's like I said, I have a pretty big vested interest that Kerbal 2 doesn't suck. So I wanted to make sure, that we could, be cool and know that it's in the right hands. That was my biggest thing for the longest time. And, I've talked to Nate. We've talked one-on-one before many times at this point. No. It's in good hands. I'm not worried. And that I'll just say what I keep saying since the game came out into early access. I'm not worried. I'm really not worried. I mean, these guys, they got the money behind Take-Two behind them, so that means they can take the time to implement exactly what they want, which is good. Could the issue with maneuvers be that the timer now counts down to the proper burn time rather than when you should be doing it halfway? I don't know. I'm not getting something right, Moto, but on the other hand, it could just be that I'm getting tired, dude. Dude, even me, I can only play Kerbal for so long before I start getting lazy. Not lazy, that's not the right way to say it. I'll start missing things, you know? It's a game that requires a lot of your attention, you know? Especially when you're flying. You need to really focus at times, especially when you're doing maneuvers, etc., etc. For the Emperor, you love the background? Yep. Yeah, Sam, it wasn't said, and I might be reaching here, but it seems that they kept referencing 10 years of development for KSP1. Nate said that multiple times in multiple answers, so that tells me that that's their extended roadmap. At least planned right now. I bet you the roadmap is super concrete to 1.0, right? I'll bet you it's pretty well thought out to 1.0, and then the roadmap probably extends out 10 years, but it's probably really rough at that point. But yeah, that tells me that they're committed to this for the long term. The way he kept referencing it, you know? Complacent? Yeah, something like that, guys. Yeah, you know, you get to a point when you're playing KSP late at night, and I'm just like, I mean, guys, you got to remember, like we haven't done Space News. I really haven't been playing other games. I've been belting out 8 to 10 hour Kerbal streams for about a month. And don't get me wrong, I am not complaining by any means. No way. You guys have been super good to me over the last month, and you know, it's pretty crazy. The game has been out for a month. It's been out for a month, which, wow, that month went by quick. Did someone say Space News? Yeah, Creeper, I said I have the link, and when we're done with this, we'll talk about it. You must have missed that, though. It's all right, yeah. No, nozzle burn through do be like that. 10 years could just mean the foreseeable future. Well, Josh, yeah, he kept making it a thing to say it, so maybe I'm reading into it too much, dudes. Who knows? He mentioned Rotor at some point after 1.0. Yeah, what he said about robotics actually made me really happy. It kind of sucks that we're not getting it till after release. But also at the same time, what Nate said after that actually made me pretty happy. He said basically, you know, they want to make sure that they implement robotics in a really well solidified, like well built game, and rethink the things that made the robotics wonky with KSP. So that tells me that that kind of stuff is on the roadmap post 1.0, but other features needed to be made correctly, like just getting the physics right or not wobbly rockets, etc., till they get to that point. Now, am I kind of bummed about that? Yeah. I think it would be better to have robotics implemented from the start, but, you know, if I was creative director and I said I wanted robotics implemented from the start, the software engineers would probably look at me and go, no, don't do that, please. So, I understand that I mean, that kind of stuff is hard to do, man. I saw you cringe at the pumps. Yeah. Dude, having water pumps and buoyancy tanks, so having boat parts, oh, that's going to be a rabbit hole. That's going to be pretty sweet, actually. That's cool, Nova Raptor. Yeah, Margaret Hamilton's a BAMF. Yeah, and then Wanderers as well. That's cool. Now, I can't share Wanderers on stream. I don't want to. I'm like super paranoid about sharing YouTube videos, you know what I mean? Certain ones I know are, you know, it's not going to be a big deal, but yeah. Do you have any idea when 1.0 will happen? I mean, once again, Josh, I could be reading too much into this. It's possible. I honestly don't know anything about the roadmap other than what's public. Like, but I haven't asked either because I'm not that type of guy. I don't do that. So the fact that they were referencing KSP1 and KSP1's timelines so ridiculously much tells me that that probably gave them a framework for how their roadmap is actually going to work. So KSP1 came out in 2011, right? You know, it really got big 2013, 2014, and then released in 2015. So that's 4-year maximum, right? But if you take into account that it was just an early access game, it was just a game that Felipe was working on in his spare time for the first couple of years, him and a couple of other guys, right? He really didn't get a full development team until, you know, Squad came along, etc., right? I would guess 2 years. That's my guess. I would guess that that's their rough schedule. It might be even longer, but... And then underwent quite a bit of further development after 2015. Yeah, Adversity. But because it was like back and forth with Squad and dev team, you know, people left and then other people came back and then other people left and other people came back, you know, it was kind of spotty, dude. We went years without getting a patch from like, what was it? From Kerbal 1.0.5 to 1.0.6, we went, that was a year, at least. I guarantee you the dev cycles for this game are going to be a lot more regimented and a lot less sporadic. Absolutely. Like, that's definitely... Like, I could say that with pretty reasonable conviction, you know? Yeah, I would say 2 years, Sam. Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, that seems about right. Especially given the amount of software they have to do. And kind of like how the game is built and the parallel development. The parallel development is what is the big selling point for me, dude. The fact that they're... You know... The fact that all this stuff, multiplayer, base building, colonies, stuff like that, is roadmapped features that are being worked on right now. That's why I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. Yeah, I think they went. Yeah, Tessa. 1.0.6 wasn't the next thing that they released. They never released 1.06. They went right to 10. You're right. They went right to Kerbal 1.1 from there. And that took years. Hold on. Like, let me take a look at the patch notes for... Like, dude, sometimes it just took freaking forever. Here, let's go back down here. So, I started playing way back over here. Nate and I started playing at the same time, which actually makes me pretty happy. That's when I started playing, when .16 came out. So, July 20th, 2012. In July and August of 2012, I played the absolute snot out of this game. Like, as much as I do right now. And that's kind of like when I started putting 2 and 2 together. I'm like, maybe, yeah, maybe we should do something with this rocket stuff. I do like rockets, you know. 17.1. 16.2 is not on the patch notes, interestingly enough. And then... yeah, there was 17, 18, and then they went to 25 from there. 18.2? .3? Oh, that was the demo. Okay. 18.4? 19? No, they skipped to like 25. I remember that. I don't remember when they did it, though. Huh. Dude, I could have sworn they went from like 0.19 to, or 0.18 to like 0.25. I joined your stream right before 0.9 came out. Yeah. Maybe it was 0.5 to like 0.90 or something. Yeah, that's what it was. That was the jump. Yeah, I remember them telling me about the Kerbal Knot model, and they're like, dude, we got something big. I'm like, all right, cool, sweet. Yeah, see, and then after this, you know, 102, 103, 104, 105, right? They did those thermo improvements, and then check it out. Look at the gap. Yeah, then, yeah, 1.1, they ported to Unity 5. And then, dude, somewhere in here, there's a huge gap. We didn't get a patch for Kerbal, like, for a really long time. I clearly don't remember when it was. And maybe it was just at the time. Like, November, December, January, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, that was 5 months with no patch right there. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, there's... And then, yeah, 1.1, 1.2. Somewhere in here is just a gap where we didn't get a patch for a really long time. I'm kind of looking for it here now. October, November, December. Yep. And then 1.2 was probably my favorite upgrade for Kerbal. Yeah. They added COM Networks, KerbNet, and they added the debug. Nathan coded the debug window. Nathan Kell's still my hero for doing that. Do you know how I can circularize around Kerbin? Felix, I'm not saying what you spelt there, and I'm hoping that's a typo, because if it's not a typo, I ain't answering that question. With a knife, dude. That's pretty funny, man. Now, I hope that's a typo, bro. It was mad laughter. It's pretty funny. Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. It is what it is. You're going to need one big scalpel to do that. All right. Where's the gap? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, 1.2 to 1.3. Yeah. Oh, boy. Honey, look what I got at the auctions. That's pretty sweet. Should have asked Nate that question. No. Do we need a space rabbi? Is it history of the world again? Jews in space! Love that sketch, man. It's so funny. Chinese food, beef and broccoli, chicken fingers, and rice. Yes. Yep. All right. So, yeah, see? Check this out. December to May. Dude, these actually aren't too far apart, to be honest with you. They're not too far apart, but I do remember, maybe it was just kind of at the time. I mean, if you look at like 1.2.2 to 1.3, like they did the localization and everything, and that's all fine and dandy. But yeah, it was pretty sparse on the content front. And, you know, like, here's the thing, fellas. You know what's interesting about that? I'm noticing a correlation here. In the time where they didn't do a lot of patches for the game, right? Like 2017 into 2018, like, from what I'm looking at from these releases, that's when I was working on helicopters and launch pads and stuff. Because they're, like, that's what was cool. That's what needed to be done, dude. Like, that's, because that was, like, game-changing stuff at the time, because no one was doing stuff like that, you know, like, just, this kind of, looking at this in retrospect kind of explains why I wanted to do helos and whatnot. Yeah, there you go. October 1.3, you know, localization fixes, bug fixes, other undefined enhancements. We didn't really get much in 2017. From 2017 to 2018. Yeah, then we got part texture variants, and then the EVA shoot. I remember that with 1.4. And then they changed the jet engine sounds. I do remember that. But yeah, even this, you know. Like, they would release a new version of Kerbal and then do a couple of patches, and then they'd just dip for a little while. And then, once again, that isn't a mark against the dev team, but I think the content is going to be a lot more regimented than this. This is kind of sporadic here, like, but it, you know, now that I'm looking at it, it's actually not too bad. Sounds like the AMA already happened. Any way to go back? You can check the VOD, dude. Yeah, check the VOD. When did they start development of KSP 2? Pacey, the first time I went and met Nate and the rest of the dev team was at PAX West in 2019. So, and a lot of the stuff that I saw then, yeah. The game had already, I mean, they were already working on it, dude. But yeah. 2019, yeah. Then COVID happened and they stopped. They stopped working on it for a little while. Oh, there we go. Dakota summarized all the notes. Right on. Yeah, COVID really screwed them up a little bit. Yeah, they updated to U5, Hayes. That was big. That's when 1.2 came out, dude. I remember 1.2. 1.2 was, like I said, one of my favorite upgrades for Kerbal. That was one of the best ones, dude. Put the debug window in. The debug window was one of my favorite things in Kerbal. I really hope we get that back. And they really, yeah, they really fixed a lot of things. That, once again, that was a developer named Nathan Kell, who still streams KSP from time to time. He hasn't done it a lot lately, but Nathan's my boy. Yeah, that guy is insanely smart. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met, dude. Like, yeah, he works for Valve now. Valve, yes, that Valve. He works for the Gaben now. I think for modders, a slower dev time is better, as they have time to make them compatible. Yeah, power. That's fine. Yeah. Actually, for a streamer, though, for me, I would want more frequent patches, because that brings people back to the stream. That's better for me. But yeah, I understand modders wanting a slower one, yeah. I missed the end of the AMA. Did you have any of your questions answered? No. Nathan did Real Solar System? I think so, Bomb. That sounds right. Speaking of Valve, did you hear they're making Counter-Strike 2? Yep. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play it, Panta. Probably not, like, a lot, but I want to. Yeah. Just because. Just to see. What's up, Clang? How you doing? Yeah, and then, like, I'm looking through the rest of this, dude. Then again, if it's built for modding, a well-managed API should keep updates from breaking stuff. Yep, not on stream, please. Probably late at night, Tessa. I will play it, though, just because. Yeah, and then, like, around here, when Take-Two acquired the IP for Kerbal, that's when development started coming out pretty fast. Yeah, see, October, December, January, April for 1.7. Yeah, I remember this. They started releasing stuff pretty crazy, but there was a huge drought in, like, 2016. Yeah, 1.05. This is the drought that I'm talking about there. Right there. The 105 to 11. That's the big one, dude. Yeah, that was crazy. We didn't get anything, like, not even a peep from the devs for a really long time. So Valve will make Counter-Strike 2, but not Half-Life 3. Have you played Alex? Half-Life Alex? So, for what it's worth, Half-Life Alex is basically, it's basically Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. That said, I want another Portal game. I want to, yeah, dude. I want to figure out what happened to the damn Borealis, man. Alex is arguably a prequel, dude. I didn't play it at the time, but I watched Jacksepticeye's playthrough. Yeah, the story's pretty rad, man. Yeah, the story's pretty rad, dude. I remember watching your stream during the Apollo 50th anniversary. Good times. Yeah, Arcsign, that was fun, man. Yeah. Yeah, and see, like, once you get up into 2020, man, they were releasing stuff left and right. Like, yeah, we wouldn't go a couple months without a new patch. Personally gonna wait on playing KSP2 until it and the mods are more mature, hoping for a more fun experience, maybe in 24 or 25. Adversity, judging by what I heard here, the game should be more or less stabilized out. I would say sooner rather than later, dude. But, yeah. Interesting stuff. Alright, well, I completed the challenge, guys. We got it. We did it last night. I stayed up a lot later than I really wanted to, and I missed the Electron launch because I fell asleep. Yeah, we definitely, we got it. No, Valve's allergic to number 3, Tessa. They never made a third game. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's, we gotta figure it out. Gotta figure out what we're gonna do. So, just on quick other news, somebody said it in chat, and I actually want to go look into it here. I'm gonna switch us over to science and tech here, and out of the Kerbal category for a second. Talking about new games.